Impeachment 2.0 is a disaster. Trump says this is the continuation of a witch hunt. Liz Cheney and Mitch McConnell break ranks with him. Mike Pence won't invoke the 25th Amendment. And Los Angeles wants you to wear a mask inside your own home. This is not going to help. Let's be very clear about that. This move by Democrats underway right now to impeach and remove the President of the United States with 7 days left to go in office is unfair. It's unhelpful. It's hypocritical when you look at the charges and what they're saying. This isn't based upon, and you have to be very clear. You have to really look at what's happening because they're going to misdirect you. They're going to lie to you. This is not based on just Trump using rhetoric and saying things about the election that were not true. This is about insurrection, incitement to insurrection, they say. That's what they're really going after Trump for. They are claiming that the President of the United States told that mob on Capitol Hill to ransack and attack the United States Capitol while it was certifying the election. Now, you can go back yourself, look at the transcript or watch the speech on video that Trump gave. He did not say that. That's just not true. They can keep repeating this as much as they want. They can claim that Trump was, the head of this terrorist organization that tried to seize the Capitol. He never said anything that you could claim in a court, for example, reasonably would lead someone to acts of imminent violence. And that's what incitement would have to be. Now, let's also remember, if the new standard we're to operate under is that politicians who say reckless and untrue things are responsible for the acts of any person who acts upon what they're saying on their own accord and breaks the law, we got a lot of Democrats who need to be locked up for incitement to riot over BLM because they were telling the public constantly that police officers are racists who murder people, who murder unarmed black men for no reason other than their own bigotry and disgraceful soul, right? That's it. That's what their line, the foundation of Black Lives Matter is built upon a lie that cops kill unarmed black men without consequence routinely and systematically in this country. That's not true. It's not that it never happens. And we all agree that when it does happen, it's highly unjust and wrong and evil. But to impugn all the almost million law enforcement officers in this country, police officers, to impugn them over this and to suggest that this is widespread, it is a part of the system and therefore everyone within the system is tainted by it, is a lie. We have 330 million people in this country, and you have less than 100 unarmed black men shot in recent years. When you look at the statistics, that is a very, very small number. Every single one of those, when it's an unjust shooting, is a tragedy. But the Democrats lie about this all the time. And it has resulted in not one, but hundreds of riots and violent incidents and destruction of property and police officers being executed, being murdered in their cars. That's the result of the rhetoric that is deployed routinely by the left. So we've got to take this piece by piece. If you're telling me that Trump is responsible for the violence that came from a small group compared to the overall group of protesters in D.C., right? It was perhaps a couple of thousand, and we estimate at least 100,000. People say a lot more, who knows, protested lawfully in D.C., 2,000 or so. We don't have exact numbers here, but they made a horrible, egregious error and should be punished for it. But you'll notice I will say that. I'll say that even though I know it upsets a lot of people who agree with me on a whole lot of things politically, but I truly believe that this is a moral question. The left, the Democrats, when it comes to BLM and Antifa, they will not treat it as a moral question. They will treat those riots and that violence as a question of political expediency. And they will excuse it. They will downplay it. They will ignore it. They will, quote, mostly peaceful protest it. That's what they do. So now we're supposed to take lectures from them about incitement. I mentioned to you that there was a Bernie Sanders supporter who tried just a few years ago to murder the most conservative members of Congress he could find. He tracked them down. He scouted out the location. And with a semi-automatic rifle, he almost killed Steve Scalise. He hit him. He tried to kill Senator Rand Paul. He was an avowed Democrat and a Bernie Sanders supporter who was yelling, "This is for health care." Now, you can say, and I would say this is fair, Bernie Sanders did not tell anyone to go engage in violence. But Bernie Sanders, along with the Democrats, routinely say things like Republicans don't care about the poor. They don't care about people dying from lack of health care. Well, if somebody really believes that and they decide that they're going to make that a moral question, if they think that that's true, that Republicans really don't care if people die in agony because of lack of access to health care, because Republicans are so greedy and hate the poor, whatever nonsense leftism they're going to spread about this. There will be individuals who decide to take violent action. We don't hold Bernie Sanders responsible for that, do we? That's exactly what's being done to President Trump. Look, the rhetoric about the election went too far. If you're going to say, I won, you have to be able to prove it. Joe Biden, as of what we've seen recently, it's not even as of today, Joe Biden has won the election. Full stop. Who knows what the future will bring? Maybe we'll find out more information. Joe Biden won this election. And Trump went too far in the claims about how it wasn't even just that there was some fraud and we're going to find it. It was a landslide for Trump. That's what he was saying. Now, we can criticize that, and I know there's a tremendous disappointment for Trump personally, as well as for all of his supporters around this. There was disappointment for me. I feel what you are feeling with regard to the sense of loss for the future of the country that we're now going to have a Biden administration that I think is going to make everybody less free, poorer, more divided, more angry. I think this will be bad. But I do respect the system that we have. And once you start saying, well, I don't care anymore, Buck, we got to get rid of this or overthrow this, understand what you're really talking about. That's a grave step. And we are not there. We can still work within the system we have. I implore you, please, everyone out there listening all across the country, and there are a lot of you, don't give up hope. And don't forget who you are. We will work within this system. I'm seeing these stories about, armed protests the day before the inauguration. I know that you can tell me about what happened at Trump's inauguration. I'm quite aware of it. They burned that limousine in the streets, anarchic riots. That's disgusting. It's awful. It's wrong. We are not them. Now, if people are going to peacefully and lawfully protest, of course, fine. I get it. Support it. But I start seeing this change in the rhetoric. This is not what I remember from the Tea Party of we're all going to show up and have our voices heard. There's another element that's entering into this where people are suggesting we have to abandon the system. And that's not, I strongly disagree. And I think that's a very dangerous and destructive path. So there should be we should not allow that. And let me just tell you this right now. The Democrats are coming into power. You know what would help them further suppress speech and freedom more than anything else? If a few idiots really cross the line again. Plays right into the Democrats' hands. They're already talking about using counterterrorism law against conservatives. They're already talking about this. They'll do it. They'll do it. And so let's not give these authoritarians an excuse for further overreach. Now, all of that said, I'm saying we have to stay within the system. Democrats are abusing the system. They are hurting the process set forward for impeachment and removal from office. They're intentionally going around the way it's supposed to work. They're moving past the judiciary. They're going right to let's get to the floor vote. Let's ram this thing through as quickly as possible. To what end? Why do this? Trump lost the election. He's done. He's done in a week. What purpose would it serve for the American people right now, other than to be a slap in the face of the 74 million people who voted for Trump in this past November, and the 60 some odd million that voted for him back in 2016? It's meant to humiliate and undermine. No one thinks Trump's not leaving. Trump knows he's leaving now. It's over. So why do this? Why kick a man when he's down? Well, this is where I say they are going around and they're trying to ram home their advantage. They want retribution. They want retribution, not just against Trump supporters. And I do believe that Republicans need to stay clear-eyed on this one and not give in to the Democrat mob, not give in to, at this stage, what possible benefit could there be? To repudiate the president and his whole legacy? I remember until the COVID pandemic and the Democrats exploiting that issue to the maximum and making us all as miserable and terrified as possible. But until that came along, the country did very well for 3 years of Trump's presidency. Things were good. They can lie about it as much as they want. I remember things were good. And the president was overall a very strong president for 3 years. The fourth year, things changed. The fourth year, we had COVID and we had lockdowns and the whole mood of the country changed. What does it tell the American people right now if with a week left to go, this president is removed by this congressional procedure? The people who say there need to be accountability, he lost the election. If they want to have a vote of censure, that's reasonable and within the process. But to remove with only a week left because they say he's in imminent danger, I think that's vindictive, and I think it's excessive. And I think it's all based, remember, they're not even just making the claim that he lied about the election, because Nancy Pelosi lied about the 2016 election. Oh, it was hijacked. The Democrats spent 4 years lying about what happened in 2016 and Russia collusion and all this insanity from them. Big tech didn't crack down on them. No votes of censure against them. None of them lost their jobs, either in the media or in politics, for openly and repeatedly lying to your faces, America, for years about Russia collusion. So I don't want to hear that, Trump's comments about the election. They still say, the Democrats still say the Georgia gubernatorial election was stolen from Stacey Abrams. They do this all the time. They objected to more states in 2017 as certification than the Republicans were in this election. So this should not be about, we don't like what Trump said about the election, therefore he should be impeached and removed from office, because look what the Democrats were saying about it. This is about incitement to insurrection. That's why they go for that charge. And on that charge, we need to be very precise and we need to stand firm on principle. The president cannot be held responsible for the actions of a mob that he did not direct. He did not say, go break the law. He did not say, go attack people. Was his rhetoric overheated about the election? Should he have been more measured? Should he have stayed within the confines of what the evidence he had and could present was? Yes. But is he directly responsible for the riot in Capitol Hill? That's if we make that connection, there are Democrats who have lots more riots and violence and deaths, including deaths of police officers, to answer for because of the incitement of the BLM and Antifa mobs we've seen in the last 12 months. That's the truth. There is no good reason to remove the president from office right now. He's gone in a week.
On the impeachment, it's really a continuation of the greatest witch hunt in the history of politics. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. This impeachment is causing tremendous anger, and you're doing it, and it's really a terrible thing that they're doing. For Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer to continue on this path, I think it's causing tremendous danger to our country, and it's causing tremendous anger. I want no violence.
I want no violence, he says. He keeps saying to remain peaceful, but that doesn't ever get accounted for in the media's discussions about this. They blame him for everything. He brings up the witch hunt. Russia collusion was a witch hunt. It was disgraceful. It was dishonest. And it was used to harm the Trump presidency, unfortunately, with substantial effect. And therefore, it really hurt the American people because bitter and vicious Democrats were willing to work in clear collusion with the media to lie and lie and lie about it. So I think we should all see this for what it is. They've been trying to remove this president through some mechanism from the very beginning, even if they had to lie about it entirely. Don't we think we should take that into account now? There is something of a cry wolf scenario here that we should be aware of. They keep saying that Trump is a clear and present danger, a clear and present danger. Now we have had a terrible incident at Capitol Hill, and they're trying to place it all on Trump's shoulders. I'm not saying that there aren't reasons to criticize the president post this election. There are. But to say that he is responsible for the riot and that he must be removed from office with 1 week left to go because of this seems much more a continuation of the Democrat mania to remove him than an actual fair-minded assessment of what his culpability is in the violent riot in Capitol Hill. That's where we really are. And that's where we should say, no, we won't give the Democrat left what it wants here. It's not in the interests of the country. Understand that the Democrats are not planning on limiting the reprisals to Trump and his family. They want to create the underlying legal architecture to come after you if you stand for the Trump movement, if you continue to push conservative ideas that are in opposition to the Biden-Harris administration. They want to find ways to go after and silence you. Now, they will say, of course, no, we only want to stop domestic terrorists and insurrectionists. Really? Look at the way that they've used the term white supremacy now as a catch-all term for essentially anything opposed to what the left claims is social justice is now called white supremacy. Anything that you can point to and say, well, hold on a second, that I disagree with this racially conscious policy, as the Supreme Court referred to it in a relatively recent decision, the racial entitlement state, that you should not make determinations of law based upon skin color or ethnicity, that's wrong. It's a violation of the Equal Protection Clause. That's white supremacy. Now, everything is white supremacy. And they do that because it's a useful tactic to frighten people and to attack people who are not actually, of course, white supremacists, but are people who oppose your politics and want to stop you. And while we're sitting here having our discussion about the constitutional processes now that the Democrats are really running roughshod over by, they're jumping past the normal procedure, even for an impeachment. They're trying to leverage the threat of impeachment to use the 25th Amendment against the president. Here's what Trump says about that, by the way. Play one.
Free speech is under assault like never before. The 25th Amendment is of zero risk to me, but will come back to haunt Joe Biden and the Biden administration. As the expression goes, be careful what you wish for.
Saying something that a lot of us have been alluding to for some time here, whereby the easy path out for Joe Biden at any point in his presidency will be to step down, and or there are some who believe that they will just claim that the 25th Amendment means that he's no longer of sound mind, and this is because of his age. And no one who knows anything about the kind of decline that people can have, that we are all heading for as we age, no one can say that this is an unrealistic possibility. So Trump is pointing out, you may actually have a 25th Amendment invocation about Joe Biden because, yes, he could. And let me be very clear. I wish for the health of the president of the United States. I wish for the good health and longevity and safety of every president of the United States. Period. Now, Joe Biden is of an age, though, where there is a concern about his health over the 8 years of his term. So Trump is making reference to, I wonder if Democrats in the 25th Amendment, if there may be some historic irony here in their constant attempts to use it as a weapon of politics when that's not what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be infirmity to do the job, really a physiological condition. It's not just, we don't like you, we're going to use the 25th Amendment to remove you. So he points that out. How overheated is the rhetoric that you're hearing? Because right now, and a lot of conservative channels and everything, a lot of places that you would turn for news, they're having a very hard time. The ratings are plummeting. A lot of people on the right don't want to hear about these things. They don't want to. And look, I understand that in the sense that there's not a lot of good news right now to share. I'm looking for it. I'm trying. I'm squeezing every silver lining I can. I'm doing whatever I can to give a full context and perspective to what's going on in the country right now. But I will not lie to you, as you know, and I think that this is a dark and dangerous time. But if you want to understand how much worse it can get, if you want to understand what's really at issue here, if we continue in this direction, especially when this is all happening, we still have a Republican president, Republican executive branch. That's about to change, folks. That's about to change. So we need to be aware of what's coming. CNN has among the worst national security analysts of any place I can think of. And I'm including third-tier think tanks and academia. And I mean, CNN, and I know because I essentially was one of them for 2 years, that CNN does employ some of the dumbest people on national security you'll ever find. And they say exactly what that audience wants to hear, and they try to filter it through this prism of, I went to the Kennedy School, which, I mean, come on, who cares? You look at these places, these institutions of higher learning, we're all supposed to be so impressed. The same way that conservatives don't get a fair shake in social media, and we all know that now. They used to deny it, but it's true. Conservatives also, if you're right of center, you will not get a fair shake in academia, especially a humanities program, international relations programs. No. You have to be at least a Democrat, if not a leftist, if not an outright leftist, if you want to excel in those places. So you're supposed to believe that the credentials that some of these people have makes what they're saying not moronic. I'm here to tell you, no, it's quite moronic. And here's a very good example of that. It's national security analyst Juliette Kayyem. She's somebody who has said some of the dumbest things imaginable on air. Even when I'll never forget this. She claimed that I was putting troops in danger overseas because by criticizing Obama administration foreign, she did this on TV, criticizing Obama administration foreign policy, that our enemies would be emboldened to attack our soldiers. I know. Oh, that's a really clever formulation. So if I don't like Obama's, withdrawal plan that never actually happened in Afghanistan, right? Or if I have any criticism of Obama, I'm helping you're doing bin Laden's work. That was basically the line. Of course, then bin Laden got killed. But, you're doing Al-Qaeda's work for them. They would try stuff like this. So that I had this exchange with this woman years ago. I'll never forget it. And I said to her, excuse me, I've actually served on military bases as a civilian CIA advisor and ridden around with them in Humvees and helicopters and tried to help in the war effort. As an analyst, always very clear about this, but I actually took some risk and have deep respect for the military and the much greater risks that they were taking in the war zone on a daily basis. I'm not going to hear this crap from this clown because, I teach at the Kennedy School or whatever. It means nothing. It means nothing. Although there's a woman who teaches at Yale, Ms. Asha Rangappa, who is like a chief Russia truther collusion person. Never repudiated, just saying idiotic stuff, completely unproved, but she was a Comeyite. She was one of James Comey's disciples, so they hired her at CNN, and this is what you get. Now, you might be saying, Buck, why does all this matter? Because they are inciting the CNN audience against all of you. They were doing it with Russia collusion, all these national security analysts, and now they're taking it even a step further. This is what was said on national TV about you, not just Trump, about you, with no pushback from the anchor, no effort to try to give any nuance or clarification here. Play clip 2.
And I think what we have to remember is Trump is the spiritual, but I will also say operational leader of this domestic terrorism effort. He tells them where to go. He tells them what to do. He tells them why they're angry. And so we need to start at the top, like any counterterrorism effort, which is total isolation of the President of the United States. Impeachment, yes. 25th Amendment, yes. Deplatforming, yes. All of the above. No money, no access to campaign funds. A complete isolation, because as the leader of a terrorist organization is viewed as a loser, as a not winner, it is harder for him to recruit. Look, he's going to have his radical elements. We will arrest them. We will isolate them. But what we have to make sure is that Donald Trump does not have a second act. I know I sound incredibly harsh right now calling the president this, but we are in the tactical response right now. Enough with the let's unity and stuff. This is a tactical effort right now to make sure that we protect American citizens and, of course, the next president of the United States.
You're Jim Shooter there. Yeah, that's right. That's right. This was the quote, the spiritual leader for domestic terrorists. What do we do with spiritual leaders of other terrorist groups? Think about the implications of what this woman is saying on national TV. Yep, Jim Sciutto, yes. It was very, very, very bright, very. She's a clown and an imbecile, but elevated. A lot of people heard that. If he's the leader of a domestic terrorist group, what does that make anyone who's voted for him? What does that mean for your civil rights, your civil liberties going forward? This is what they are saying right now. And Republicans think, and this is something I meant to get to earlier. Some Republicans, I should say. I mean, you've got a handful of them who are going along with this impeachment effort, who want to be a part of it. They think that casting Trump out now is going to put the country back on a pathway to better political, spiritual, and legal health. I mean, that's going to put us back on track. Are they out of their minds? It makes everything worse. They should know that. There shouldn't be any doubt that this would give so much more oxygen to the very small but unfortunately significant enough contingent on the far right that creates all these crazy conspiracy theories and, there's all this stuff going on with the lizard people and the pedophile rings at the top of the government and all this stuff gets elevated if at this stage Republicans go along with this. President is gone. No one is going to abide by an order the president gives that would put Americans in danger right now. We all know that. Mike Pence won't allow it. Others won't allow it. It's not going to happen. And the president's not going to do it. Look, he went too far with the election challenge stuff. We need to come to grips with that. But he did not incite and direct a domestic terrorist attack on the Capitol. That's just not true. Now, that's not saying that what happened to the Capitol wasn't an illegal and awful riot. It was. And there are people, look, it saddens me that for saying that, I've got people that are saying they're going to tune me out or they don't. Oh, yeah, who are they going to turn to? They're going to turn to people who spent the last 4 years just doing nothing, but everything Trump did was brilliant and genius. Everything Trump did, he gets a back rub for. It was amazing. Is that who we are as conservatives? Do we have principles and ideas? Do we care about the founding and the Constitution, or is it all just about Trump? Those of you who are still staying and listening, you know it is about all those things. It's not just about Trump. Trump was the vessel. Trump was the tool for achieving goals that we have. It wasn't all about this one man. He's flawed. Any human being, any man, woman is flawed. We know that. And he made mistakes. And I'm not going to pretend he didn't. Certainly in this post-election period, but before that as well. But we can't allow, you see, this is what the left always does. You know, there's a surge at the southern border. The laws on the books say you arrest people who are coming into the country illegally. The Trump administration is executing the laws as they're written. That means there are families that are being separated. There's no facilities built that can hold them all together at the time. And instead of saying, hold on, we really don't want to, which the administration did, but instead of saying, hold on, we don't want to separate moms from their kids, even for illegal crossings and everything, we should keep family units together. And that's a reasonable position. And it was the one the administration took when this issue came up with pushback, and I understand that. But they jumped to, it's like Nazi concentration camps at the border. They jumped to the immigrations and customs enforcement and border patrol are like the SS. They were saying stuff like this. You remember that? Same kind of ideas at work here. There's a problem with the post-election rhetoric and the continuation. I supported all the legal challenges, everything that was within the system and lawful. I wanted answers to, and I still want some answers. I still have questions about how certain things happened in this election. That hasn't changed. For those of you that keep saying, Buck, what about the answers? I want the answers. But we exhausted the legal options and the clock that we had. That's where it ended. But they're trying to take this and make it so much more. And you have to remember, it's not just about Trump. This is about expanding the punishment. The punitive nature of all this is for everybody who's not on board with Biden-Harris 2021. That means you. That means me. Do not forget it.
Any of those who are inside the Capitol should not be able to fly and should be placed on the no-fly list. We are calling on the authorities, FBI, TSA, Department of Homeland Security to put them on the no-fly list immediately. Amidst the continued threat of future violence online, the federal government's own concerns, I spoke to Director Wray about this twice in the last few days, we cannot allow these same insurrectionists to get on a plane and cause more violence and more damage. These individuals are a threat to the homeland as defined by the law. The law allows this, and they should be placed on the no-fly list.
Without any due process, Chuck Schumer, soon, or now rather current Senate Majority Leader, without any due process, Chuck Schumer wants American citizens to have rights taken away from them. Now, I want to know, does everyone who was at the Capitol but not necessarily involved in attacking or destroying or trespassing, do they go? Who goes on this list, Senator Schumer? You're going to put American citizens who have had no due process, no trial, no nothing, on the no-fly list. This is the expansion of the war on terror effort we used against al-Qaeda, which was an existential threat to the country, as you recall, from what happened on 9/11 and the other plots as well. This is the expansion of that apparatus to include Trump supporters. That's what the Democrats have planned here.